guy in the hoodie. No, he never took his hands out of the pocket.
New York police are responding to a reported blast at the Central Bus Station in Manhattan. They say the cause of the blast is as yet unclear. There's no information yet regarding any casualties or injuries. There was also a report of a stampede following what some had described as an explosion. Well, the blast is said to have happened at Manhattan's Port Authority bus terminal, situated between 42nd Avenue and 8th Street. Police on their Twitter feed are warning people to stay away from the area. Well, eyewitnesses say there are a lot of police at the scene, and there are also reports that some subway lines are being evacuated. Well, for more details on this, and joining us live for the details on the phone, is RT's correspondent Caleb Maupin. Caleb, can you hear me? Hello, Caleb, can we hear? We don't seem to be able to get through to our correspondent there. We'll return to Caleb as soon as we have contact. In the meantime, we do have some live pictures coming through here. Let's return to some of the details from that breaking news story. Well, the explosion is said to have... now we have the live feed coming through so we can see those pictures. New York Police Department are responding to a reported blast at the Central Bus Station in Manhattan. They say the cause of the blast there is as yet unclear, and there's no information yet regarding any casualties or injuries. There was also a report of a stampede following what some described as an explosion. Well, the blast is said to have happened at Manhattan's Port Authority bus terminal, situated between 42nd and 8th. Well, police on their Twitter feed are warning people to stay away from the area. Eyewitnesses say there are a lot of police at the scene, and there are also reports that some of the subway lines are being evacuated. And I think at this point we can now return to Caleb Maupin, our reporter who's at the scene. Caleb, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Caleb. What more do we know?
So at this point, we're hearing reports that the explosion took place in the Port Authority building. That's where the buses that are coming into Manhattan generally deposit people. These are buses coming in from New Jersey. These are Greyhound buses from around the country. That's where the explosion took place. And as of now, we're not getting any reports of any injuries. However, we are hearing that in response to the explosion, there was a stampede. People were evacuated, and the NYPD, according to some sources, the NYPD has one person in custody at this time. We also understand that there are trains, that deposit in the area. Near the Port Authority building, there's also a subway stop, the A train, the C train, and the E train. Here in Manhattan, and all of those train lines are now being evacuated, and the subway station below the Port Authority building is being evacuated in response to this blast. So it's still unclear what made this blast, what caused the explosion. But the NYPD is on the scene. From what we understand, SWAT teams are on the scene immediately, clearing the area, clearing the Port Authority building, trying to get to the conclusion of what's happening. So a lot of questions are in the works, but as of now, we're not seeing reports of injuries, which seems to be a good sign. But as news travels fast and we get to the bottom of what happened, it's not clear as of yet. Now, that's quite a big building. It's important to point out that there are the trains that deposit there. There are the many different buses coming in, and this is a very, very busy time for that building. At this point, it's just almost 8:30 here in New York City, and you can bet that people are just piling into downtown in their daily commute. On a given day at this time, you can bet that subway cars that are going on their way into Manhattan are just packed full of people. Standing room only. People just piled in there with barely enough space. So if there were to be an explosion in this area, the potential for injury is quite massive, as the area tends to be quite packed with commuters on mornings like this. Now, the Port Authority building, that's where buses that are coming into the city tend to deposit. That's also, at the site of a train station. This is just one block away from Times Square. And this is 42nd Street. This is Midtown Manhattan. This is quite a busy area. Now, there's a very large security and police presence in that area at all times. We've seen that there have been previous incidences there. Most recently there was the incident where there was the individual who was driving through Times Square and trying to injure people with his car, and there were fatalities. And that area is very, very heavily monitored and policed. A huge amount of surveillance, a huge police presence. And as we understand now, the New York City Police Department is on the scene clearing the area and trying to clear any people from the area, just trying to evacuate the scene for safety purposes. As we know, in an incident like this, you never know if this is over or not. For all we know, there could be more explosions in the works, so you can be sure that they're trying to evacuate the scene to get everyone out of there before they determine, so they're able to determine what's happening next, if the building is safe, if the thing is safe, and if things can return to normal. Questions are still being raised as to what this explosion was. Where did it take place? This is quite a big building. What floor was this explosion on? Was this explosion in the subway area? Was it in an area where the buses were coming in? Was it on the street level of the building? Was it higher up on the higher levels where some of the buses from New Jersey deposit? A lot of questions are being asked. It's all not very clear, but as we know, the NYPD is on the scene and people are being rapidly cleared from the area. That's the reports we're getting. The subways are being evacuated, and an area that would usually be just a hub of activity, just a sea of human beings, is now being cleared and evacuated as we try to get to the bottom of what's happening. Now, the reports seem to indicate that one person is in custody at the moment, but it's not clear if that's in relation to the explosion, or if this is a person who perhaps was getting in the way of evacuation efforts. A lot of things are just not clear as we're hearing reports of the Port Authority building being cleared by the New York City Police Department.
Indeed. Well, Caleb, we'll leave it there. I mean, we have heard that RT has contacted the police for comment, but they've neither confirmed nor denied the blast and did not admit that anybody was in custody, so we are awaiting details on that. They also clarified that it was yet unclear whether this incident is being treated as a terror attack or not, but we do have reports coming through that the bomb squad has been sent to the area. We'll have more details on this later and probably hear from Caleb again too. Thank you very much indeed, Caleb.
Let's go on now to our correspondent Rick Leventhal, who has some new information from the scene. Rick?
Good morning, guys. Just got here. Obviously, there's a lot of confusion, perhaps a lot of investigation obviously going on with the NYPD. Large groups of FDNY are here on scene. You see some heavy weapons teams over here as well. What I have been told by law enforcement sources is there was, in fact, some sort of explosion below ground, apparently in a pedestrian walkway at the Port Authority bus station, or in that vicinity of 42nd and 8th Avenue. There were initial reports of a suicide vest. That's been unconfirmed. Also reports of some sort of pipe bomb. The type of device still not confirmed, but there was an incident. There was some kind of explosion. And the suspect, the person who detonated that device, is in fact in custody. I'm told that he was likely injured when the device exploded. Not hearing about other injuries, but I'm hearing that the person who set off this device, either with a switch of some kind or a cell phone or a hand set it off, is in fact injured and is in fact in custody. I have his name. I don't want to release it just yet, but he is a 37-year-old man from Brooklyn. That's about all I want to say right now until I can talk to another law enforcement source.
Why, Rick? You just want to make sure that it's the right guy?
Yeah, and I want to make sure it's okay to, to say his name on TV.
Sure.
But the police have his name, and that's the most important thing. The investigators know who this guy is, so that means that they're going to be going to his residence. They're going to be talking to his family and his friends. They're going to figure out who he is and why he might have come down here with an explosive device that, according to police, did in fact detonate. But perhaps it detonated early.
A guy from Brooklyn. A guy from Brooklyn. Do we know is he from Brooklyn originally? Does he live there just temporarily? What do we know about?
He has a foreign name. I'll go that far.
All right, Rick, you've been
I can't tell you exactly where he's from, but he has a foreign name.
You've been at NYPD headquarters. You've seen those screens and what the NYPD has their eyes on. From your best estimation, they could almost put this whole movie together immediately, correct? They have Port Authority covered.
Absolutely. And they are, there's a watch list, and there are a lot of people they're looking at. What I cannot tell you is whether this individual was in fact on any kind of list. But they're going to know that very quickly now that they have an identity. They're looking into that, obviously.
Okay.
Whether he was known to them, I don't know yet. But clearly they're now trying to figure out exactly who he was and why he did what he did. You know, the good news here, guys, is that apparently he may have been the only person injured. If there are other injuries, I haven't heard about them yet. They may be minor. I don't know. But what you're seeing behind me is a shutdown 8th Avenue in rush hour. Every avenue is packed. A lot of the side streets are closed. Traffic is at a virtual standstill, and none of the trains are running through Port Authority Times Square area as of last report. So, you know, it's a nightmare for anybody trying to get to work this Monday morning, and certainly a tough scene for these first responders as well.
Indeed. All right. Hey, Rick, the New York Post is reporting that the suspected bomber had wires attached to him and was armed with a pipe bomb. I know that's not been confirmed by you, and a battery pack. He was taken into custody. That's consistent with what you have been told, right?
Well, it is, Steve. There were early reports of a suicide vest,
right,
and then they were backing off of that. There were reports of a man with wires strapped to his body. So it could well be that was some sort of detonation device, that he had a pipe bomb, but he had some sort of remote detonator attached to a cell phone perhaps, or some sort of switch. And that may have been what people were seeing. And as you know, early reports can often be wrong. So that's why we're trying to be careful here, not just with the details of the incident, but
Rick,
also with the name of the suspect.
Rick, from what you know, how quick are they over his residence in Brooklyn at this very moment?
Oh. Within minutes. Within minutes. They've gone to his property. We saw this happen on the West Side Highway. You know, initially reports came out that it was a gun incident, that the guy was shooting people, and it turned out that he had run them down with his truck. But he did have a couple of fake guns, a pellet gun and a paint gun. But they quickly went to the Home Depot where he rented that truck. They traced that truck to a second Home Depot. They quickly went to his home, and they talked to his family and his friends. That happened, you know, within minutes. And that's no doubt happening right now here in Manhattan, also in Brooklyn and anywhere else, any other addresses that's connected to this gentleman. Now we have a member of the NYPD telling the pedestrians to clear the streets because they need this room to work.
Yeah.
Wow. So they keep backing you up more and more instead of narrowing down this site. They're actually they're widening it.
Well, they often do expand scenes if there's a concern of you know, more incidents. I don't think that's the case here. I think they're just trying to get a truck through here and clear some traffic. This seems to be pretty well locked down at this point. I think they know where it happened. They obviously know where it happened, and they're trying to just get all the evidence and information out of that one location.
Hey, Rick, we do find out.
You're looking up 8th Avenue now.
Yep. We do find out more information. See if this mirrors yours. We know the man, the 37-year-old, has been in the country at least 7 years.
According to Bill Bratton, who's the former commissioner of New York. All right, Rick, thank you for your reporting. I know you're anxious to get some more information.
Let's be clear, as New Yorkers, our lives revolve around the subways. When we hear of an attack in the subway, it's incredibly unsettling. And let's be also clear, this was an attempted terrorist attack. Thank God the perpetrator did not achieve his ultimate goals. Thank God our first responders were there so quickly to address the situation, to make sure people were safe. Thank God the only injuries we know at this point were minor. But I agree 100% with the governor's point that choice of New York is always for a reason, because we're a beacon to the world, and we actually show that a society of many faiths and many backgrounds can work, and we show that democracy can work, and our enemies want to undermine that. The terrorists want to undermine that, so they yearn to attack New York City. But New York City is blessed with the finest law enforcement, and what our first responders did today was another example of the ability to address the situation quickly, contain it, and make sure people are safe. Let me just say, it's very important for my fellow New Yorkers to know There are no additional known incidents at this time. There are no additional known activities. We will wait for a fuller investigation, of course, by the NYPD and the MTA police and Port Authority police and FBI. But at this point in time, all we know of is one individual who, thank God, was unsuccessful in his aims. There are also no credible and specific threats against New York City at this time.
All right, these are the preliminary facts. So it just happened a couple hours ago, so you have to understand these are preliminary facts. At approximately 7:20, in a below-ground walkway, which connects the IND line at 42 and 8th Avenue with the IRT line at 42 and 7, and that's the shuttle at Times Square and the 1, 2, and 3 train. Police were called to a reported explosion. Responding units found an injured 27-year-old male. We've identified him as Akayed Ullah, Akayed Ullah. He had burns and wounds to his body. Preliminary investigation at the scene indicates this male was wearing an improvised, low-tech explosive device attached to his body. He intentionally detonated that device. Looks like there are 3 other people in the immediate area also sustained minor injuries, but Dan Nigro is going to talk about that. The subject was placed in custody and transported to Bellevue Hospital. Immediate police response to the scene included members of the Transit Bureau, Emergency Service Division, Bomb Squad, Counterterrorism, MTA police, state troopers, and the FBI's Joint Terrorist Task Force. In addition, the NYPD Strategic Response Group and Critical Response Command were assigned to other key transportation hubs in other locations throughout the city as a precautionary measure. This incident was captured on transit system video. A further review and interview of witnesses is underway. A thorough background investigation into Akayed Ullah is being conducted by the Joint Terrorist Task Force. We are asking anyone who may have any information about this individual or incident to call the terror hotline, and that's 888-NYC-SAFE. Just as the governor said, and as the mayor said, we are New Yorkers. We don't live in fear. If you see something that doesn't look right, you have an obligation to come forward, call 911, flag down a cop, and give us a chance to investigate it.